Hi friends! Today I'm going to be unboxing my very first box from Adults and Crafts. Adults and Crafts is a craft subscription box that I signed up for. Each month you receive a kit with a new craft. You can also purchase individual boxes depending on the craft you want. Let's open the first box. It's a wood burning kit. Right on top are the instructions. They look very detailed and have lots of pictures. It tells me that this project is going to take 2 to 4 hours. Also inside this kit there's a couple of sheets of transfer paper, a wood burning tool, it looks like it's nice quality, this little piece of practice wood, birch coasters, and a basswood round. In this bag we have acrylic paint in white, blue, and brown, not sure how we're going to use the paint, gloss finish, a paintbrush, and this foam brush. It also tells me that we're going to need an electrical outlet, scissors, printed out designs, a pen or pencil, and tape. Looking a little closer at this tool, it came with an angled tip and a little wire stand. The instructions say to pull the tool toward yourself, use the tip for thin lines, the flat bit for thick lines, and the very tip for dotting and shading. I've never used a wood burning tool before, so this should be interesting. I'm going to start by practicing on the spare piece of wood. The tool itself is kind of awkward to hold. You can't hold it near the tip like you would a pencil because half of it is hot metal, so you need to hold it back behind this round lip thing. I started out just dragging the pointed edge straight up and down. I tried laying it on its side, and I also tried moving it at different speeds. A slower speed obviously meant a darker burn. And then I tried to draw a shape, and I couldn't seem to make a smooth outline. First I tried turning the pen as I drew, but then I realized I should probably try turning the wood instead, but it still looks a little choppy. I tried using the side of the tip to fill it in, but it didn't look very good. Even after filling the front and back of the practice piece of wood, I was still struggling with this. Then as I was about to throw the packaging away, I spotted this! 3 extra tips. These almost went in the trash. The tool also came with a flat tip, a cone-shaped tip, and a round tip. So back to practice. I tested the cone-shaped tip and found that it doesn't make shapes any easier than the angled tip. It was sort of uneven in how deep it burned, maybe because of the grain of wood. I'm not sure, but it made the lines look weird. And I'm not sure why I practiced 2 S's and a boob. What really stinks about changing tips is that it's not a quick process. You have to turn off the tool, wait for it to cool down, unscrew the old tip, screw in the new tip, turn the tool back on, and then wait for it to heat up. If you're impatient like me and don't want to wait, you run the risk of the hot tip rolling off the table and into your lap, burning your thigh. This may or may not have happened to me. Actually, I burned myself a few times during this project. Next, I tested the round tip. It was kind of hard to get a very dark burn, probably because it doesn't have a point, but it worked better for actually coloring in an area. Last, I tested the flat tip. I'm not really sure what this is used for, but it does make a really cool gradient. Maybe it's for more experienced wood burners. I started with one of these birch coasters first. The one thing I don't like is the bark on the edge. I know it's really pretty, but it's also really flaky, and I just want to peel and peel and peel. The first design I chose is the outlines of some sharks. I wanted to stick with something easy, and not worry about shading or filled in areas. I used the transfer paper to trace the sharks onto the coaster. When drawing the design, I traced the coaster onto the paper first so the size would be correct, but I still didn't take the bark into account and the fins ended up a little too close to the edge. When I started the actual burning of this design, I decided to start with the cone tip. I wasn't really that great with any of the tips, but this one seemed the most like a pen, so I thought I would have more success. But the tip still sort of jumps across the wood, and I spent a lot of time going back and trying to even it out. I did figure out that if I turned the coaster so that I was always pulling the tip towards myself, that it was a bit easier. I wonder where we heard that before.
Pull the tool toward yourself.
I also struggled remembering to go slow so that the wood burned evenly. After fully outlining this first shark, I decided to switch to the angled tip to try and even out the line weights. I found myself using just the very tip. It worked pretty well, but it was really hard to see and hard to keep at the perfect angle, so I ended up turning the tool around and using the back of the tip. This was a slow process, but I really liked the outcome. And even though I finally figured out something that worked for me, I still found myself getting a little too comfortable and making mistakes. I thought going over a previously burned line that the tip would follow the groove, but if you're not paying really good attention, it will just veer off course. I ended up giving this shark a bump on its side that I didn't plan. One thing I didn't anticipate was how rough this was on my hand. I'm not sure if it was the heat of the tool, the awkward grip, or if I was nervous and squeezing too tight, but my middle finger was really red and sore. After I was done burning, I tried to lightly sand the coaster to remove the pencil lines and maybe clean up some of the unevenness of the lines, but I'm not sure it really did anything. For the next coaster, I decided to go with a rose design. I knew I wanted to use the paint, but it took me a while to come up with something using only brown, blue, and white. I started out with one rose in the center. It was much easier to burn than the sharks because the lines are already wavy, so if I messed up, it wasn't really noticeable. From the tiny bit of research I did, I knew to keep a piece of fine sandpaper nearby to scrape the tip on to remove the residue from the burning. This seemed to help when I noticed that the tip wasn't burning as evenly. After that, I traced 6 more roses around the outside. My original idea was actually much more complicated, but I realized my skills are not there yet. I mixed a bit of brown into some white paint to make an off-white for the center rose. Even though I used the same paint the whole time, some spots looked blue and others didn't. After a few coats though, it evened out. I got super frustrated with painting this because I kept getting paint in the burned grooves and covering up the dark lines. Then I had to try and clean it out. This happened so many times. I don't really understand why you would bother to burn the wood if it was just going to get covered up. Why wouldn't you just do line work with paint or a pen? Are most people just better at painting in the lines than I am? I am legitimately confused by this. I added highlights to the white rose with pure white, and then added blue and brown roses around the outside using lighter and darker shades for highlights and shadows. I'm not a fan of how the brown turned out because it's almost the same color as the wood. I also didn't notice this until editing, but I wish I would have spaced the outside roses more evenly. I used a pencil to try and darken the line work where the paint covered it up, and then coated the whole design with gloss. I also used Mod Podge on the edges of the coasters to stop them from peeling. Even though I had my fair share of frustration and could definitely use more practice, I really enjoyed this project and I'm super happy with how these coasters came out. I even made a new friend at one point. What are you? Can you even see that? What is that? I still have one coaster and a giant round piece of wood left. If you'd like to see me try more wood burning, make sure to like this video and subscribe. If you have any wood burning tips, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.